MarkRogersTV back with you, continuing our quest to run down every Power 5 conference schedule in college football leading up to opening day. We've made our way to North Carolina State. Wolfpack fans, we would like to hear from you. Would like to know what's happened to your football program. 3-9 last season. 0-8. Didn't win a conference game in the ACC. Is it going to be this bad in 2014? Has this program taken a stumble for years and years and years that it can't recover from, or was that a clear aberration? This is typically a bowl team that sometimes makes its way into the top 25. It's been a program that's gone 7-5, 8-4, a lot of those type of records, and making it to third-tier bowl games. That's been the type of respectable program that we've seen under a number of head coaches, again, over the past 15 or 20 years. But 3-9, 0-8 in the ACC last season. And it looks as though they've scheduled, knowing that they were going to be this bad. This may be, my apologies to Vanderbilt, who I completely trashed and couldn't believe that they scheduled the way they scheduled this season, non-conference, with 4 horrible opponents. But NC State, I believe you've matched, if not surpassed, Vanderbilt, although they've got the South Florida game out of the American Athletic Conference. So Vanderbilt, you're probably still a step ahead or behind, however you want to phrase it, behind North Carolina State with a more atrocious non-conference schedule, especially considering Vandy out of the SEC has gone 18-8 the past 2 seasons. Okay, back to NC State. They play the 4 games out of conference right off the bat and then get into ACC play. So they play Georgia Southern, who knocked off Florida last season. They play Georgia Southern at home to start off the season. Then they've got Old Dominion, another regional team, more so a regional team, taking on Old Dominion in game number 2 on September 6th at home. Then they go to South Florida for a date against USF in Tampa on September 13th. A fairly respectable game. South Florida hit its own hard times the past couple seasons as well. I believe finishing at 2-10 last season. Then you've got Presbyterian. Where did they find them? So it's Georgia Southern, ODU, USF, and Presbyterian. The first 4 games, all non-conference games for North Carolina State. They have to be 4-0. They could be 3-1 with a trip on the road to South Florida. So 3-1, worst case scenario, you would think, or they could be 4-0. Okay, this non-conference slate doesn't exactly prepare them for what faces them in the ACC the first 2 weeks. Florida State, Clemson. They've got Florida State at home. I don't think it really matters where they play the Seminoles. They've got them at home this year on September 27th. Then they go to Clemson. For a team that went 0-8 and has hit rock bottom in the ACC, they've got to face Florida State and Clemson in its own division. And as an extra added bonus for North Carolina State fans this year, they've got Louisville in that division to face later in the season. So again, it's FSU and Clemson to start off ACC play, followed by a game against Boston College at home. Then they go to Louisville. So that's 3 of the first 4 games out of the gate in the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, and Louisville, with Boston College mixed in there. Then they travel to Syracuse. They take on Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and go to North Carolina to finish out the season. So again, we analyze the ACC schedule much like the SEC and the Big Ten, with 14 teams and with 2 divisions, and playing everybody in your division and only playing 2 of the other 7 teams in the conference in the other division. So for North Carolina State, not that it matters because this team is not contending this season. This is more of a research or an investigation to look into the schedules for those teams that are going to contend. But hey, they haven't played a game yet, so North Carolina State, you are in contention as of August 10th. You've got Georgia Tech and North Carolina. So 2 teams that are much better than North Carolina State at this point, but not 2 of the better, maybe the best teams in the other division, although that division, the other division, the non-Florida State, Clemson division, the Coastal division, is just put a blanket over that division. Miami, Duke, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, who's the one team ranked in the preseason coaches top 25, and also Duke, Miami, Virginia Tech. Yeah, It's wide open over there. So North Carolina State draws a fairly tough 2 in Georgia Tech and North Carolina. Their best chances of stealing a win in the conference would be the home game against Boston College and the home game against Wake Forest. That would be the game to steal. If we get really optimistic, then they steal both of those games, go 2-6 conference. Could they go bowling? North Carolina State, they go 2-6 in the ACC. If they beat Wake Forest and BC at home and sweep the non-conference slate and go 6-6, it's possible. That is the best case scenario. I'm looking at most likely they slip up non-conference and go 3-1. Even if they don't, they probably go 1-7 against the ACC and finish either 4-8 or 5-7. North Carolina State fans, for a team that went 24-15 the previous 3 seasons, 2010, 11, and 12, 24-15, dropped to 3-9, 0-8 in the conference. And again, by the looks of the schedule, it's like North Carolina State, the administration, the athletic director knew this was coming, facing Georgia Southern, Old Dominion, South Florida, and Presbyterian, because just in the past couple of seasons, North Carolina State is taking on the likes of East Carolina, Tennessee, Connecticut, Cincinnati multiple times, and Central Florida. So they've faced quality competition, especially in its region. But this particular season, nothing non-conference. So it sets up for a possible run to a bowl game if everything falls into place for the Wolfpack. North Carolina State fans would love to hear what you have to say about your football team. Is this decline an aberration, the one-year deal, or are you in really bad shape going forward in the ACC? North Carolina State fans, let's hear from you. Everybody else in college football, chime on in right here on Mark Rogers TV.